No worries. No worries. My thunder has not been stolen. It's all good.
Oh, I
don't like it all.
yeah, this has been really
He's happy
awkward,
with me.
but
He's not.
because he's, I mean,
It's uncomfortable. I think it went as well as true. Are you in?
and he was
I don't think I wanted to table.
I've been
I think we get to make a decision and help them
when I
go from there, you know.
when I was going through.
It says you're already live streaming it.
Yes, we are live on
This is where I'm
YouTube.
sitting. And I'd call him.
Live on YouTube. But I don't know, if is it recording already, Marie? Are we ready to go? So just a second while we get the.
Oh, thank you. I haven't worn them for years. I thought I'd try tonight. I probably shouldn't have. I'll fall off.
For some reason,
Let's get it. Okay.
I'm not getting.
Well, this one's a different. Connection to.
I don't know why. One.
Okay. Okay, and I'll show it on the screen. I'll have to get that password so you know, and then I can help you get back in there.
Okay. I need more than, a lot more help. Than,
We can also set a time to stop by again
Okay.
next
I'll
week.
need that.
Oh,
No.
we ready? No. Oh,
Sorry, we're a little bit delayed. It
feel-
was snuck up on us. Because nobody was here, so none of us knew he was
Okay.
good.
You just can't. You just can't. Because the subjectiveness is how we've been.
You loved it?
Oh, it's just, oh, yeah, he called me one day and I can't.
well, welcome to Planning and Zoning, everyone. Yes, this is January 20th, 2022. Welcome to Planning and Zoning. We will begin with, we do pledge first. Pledge by Nan, and Dwight will give our prayer. So if you'll stand and. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our beloved eternal heavenly Father, we humbly bow before thee this night and beginning of our planning commission meeting. We're grateful for the opportunity which we have to be here tonight to assemble and to express our views and to receive input and direction from our great citizens. We're thankful for the many blessings we do receive in this free land and thankful for the opportunity which we have to participate in the carrying out of government and implementation of rules and regulations that will benefit this citizenry. We're thankful for the opportunity to meet together under such favorable circumstances. We humbly pray for thy spirit to guide us and direct us, that we might be able to justly and fairly and openly discuss those issues that might be before us. We pray for insight and inspiration. We might be led and guided and be able to make good, sound decisions that will benefit all of our citizens in the long run. We thank thee again for the opportunity and pray thy spirit to guide us and direct us again. We are grateful for this great nation and pray for continued health and strength overall, that the diseases and imperfections that are besetting upon us, we might be guided and directed from those. We pray for continued moisture. We may have sufficient for our summer months this year, and we again thank thee for all the blessings we do enjoy. In the name of thy beloved Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
And thank you, Dwight. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I
Anybody?
so move.
Okay, any second?
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay.
Also, ma'am, I mean, I heard it, but if you can, if you can just say when somebody makes a motion, who.
Okay. Okay, I will. Thank you.
Then it's on recording for.
Okay, I'll do that. All right, next we need a motion to approve the minutes of November 4th, 2021, the Planning Commission minutes. Do we have anybody that will make a motion to accept the minutes?
Jared Hoyt, I so move that we accept them.
Okay, Heron moved, and we have a second.
I'll second.
Jeff seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, the minutes have been approved. Thank you, Marie, for those. All right, Spencer, any follow-up?
Yes, so the main follow-up is on the post-division approval of the Wilson Strebel application. That one went before the city council last night. That was voted to be denied at that city council. I believe it was 3-1. One vote against that motion, 3 in favor to deny that application. So that was formally denied. They followed the recommendation from Planning Commission. And other than that, no updates.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. So let's move on to item number 1, discussion about a potential modification of the North Little Garden City Code 12D 207 post-division approval of improper subdivision to clarify requirements for post-division approval applications. Spencer?
Okay, so we just had that application that I mentioned. I think through the process, that being our first one, we realized we need to make this a little more clear. There are a couple things that have been done in here, and this will kind of work in accordance with some code that is already being proposed in our ingress egress code. So that's in city council now. So hopefully that's big enough that we can see. The few things that we're doing and changes we're making in here is we're clarifying the code references for zoning requirements. So for lot sizes, frontage, lot widths, they have to meet the sizes provided in our code there, specifically referenced. And that would be the sizes for a standard subdivision. They couldn't say in a 1 acre zone be half acre, because under the certain density determinant, you can have a half acre. If they want to have that benefit, they would have to come in and subdivide formally through that. They would have to just meet the standard minimum lot size.
Yeah.
In this case, also referencing specific code rather than development standards, I think is what the previous code said. This one says 12D 115, Design Standards Technical Manual, and the International Fire Code. And I have International Fire Code Appendix D. This is a point of discussion. We should probably formally adopt that as the city as well. We could reference it in this code. We could keep it more broad at fire code. There are a few different ways to do it. But basically this makes it written in stone that you have to have adequate access and it's listed right in the improper lot subdivision. The way this works with our ingress egress is ingress egress code also mentions adequate access and what that entails. It has to be fully constructed. I will also be looking to tweak that code a little bit, just to clarify potentially on width or reference back to specific fire code. That hasn't gone through the city council yet, hasn't been approved yet by the city council. So I might make a couple tweaks. And that would be located right where it would actually be in 12D 115, is where that ingress egress code is written as it stands. So that's the first thing that this does. The second part of this is just clarify the process a little bit better. Before it was kind of ambiguous as to what needed to be submitted and the process to go through. So here we're going to have them follow some of the similar steps as a concept plan while trying to still make it a little less cumbersome than a concept plan, to follow the spirit of the ordinance rather than going through 4 different meetings. It's still just 2 meetings.
So there would be a concept and a detailed design.
Kind of combined. So essentially,
But what I guess the intent is that, because right now it's a matter of, we go to planning commission, we go to city council, and that's it. It doesn't follow the typical concept review, design review.
exactly.
So you're suggesting that we follow a similar process. It may not be the full 4
Yes.
review meetings, but there needs to be more than just, hey, here's our application and you're off.
Exactly. So
Okay,
this
I like
one,
that.
this one requires a pre-application meeting
Yeah.
with staff, that we can talk through things. So that has to be a prerequisite. That's the same for any concept subdivision. This one also requires a plan to be submitted with the application. We didn't have a lot of details, it was just basically submit an application. And I actually will want to make a formal application based on this code,
Yeah.
just like we have with the subdivision. We don't have that currently. This would be kind of a mix of what a development plan and a concept plan is. So in this code as written, I'm proposing that we require a survey. That does a couple things for us. I mean, it does add a little bit of burden to the landowner, but it gives us an accurate size. Sometimes the parcel viewer says a parcel is 1 acre. You come back with a survey and it's 0.75. Like there are sometimes relatively large discrepancies there. So a survey, and that also gives us a chance to see right-of-way dedications and be able to record that. Also legal descriptions, easements, things like that would need to be completed as part of that plan. So it's showing a little more detail than a standard subdivision concept plan, but not to the extent that a subdivision would need to. So yeah, that's essentially what this is. Then it would also need a development agreement. I think that could be very helpful, just to pin down road cross sections, who's paying for what, as part of this. So those 2 things may help give a little more guidance and have a little more to review for the planning commission, city council, and
Yeah.
staff.
Mhm.
So that's one thing. And then I copied and pasted a lot of our subdivision code, just solidifying in writing what happens. It comes to a public meeting, they discuss the merit, they recommend to city council makes the final decision. So that wasn't explicitly stated. That's just our standard land
Yeah.
use application process. This just makes it very clear. So all those things were added to help kind of clarify this code a little bit and hopefully make the process a little smoother next time.
Thoughts?
Yeah, if it's okay with the rest of the commission, I think we ought to work our way through it and discuss the items as we go down. There's some things I kind of noted, but
Yeah.
Starting with the
Yeah,
setback.
so my understanding on that 12D, I thought it was 114,
114, let me go over there now.
because that's the subdivision.
It was tricky to find this.
So a lot of our development regulations as far as standards are in 115. There's the development regulations. So this are items that have to be addressed in any development. This is where. our
So are we-
slopes-
So let's back up just to 14 since you have it open, and I'll just say why. Then I think we should add it if it isn't covered. But if you want to go back to 114.
14, yep.
So in 114, there's some critical points here. That item number 4,
Adequate frontage.
streets and roads providing adequate frontage and access to all lots.
Okay, let me get.
And that was really the crux of, and this ordinance is all about subdivision improvements.
Right.
So I'm hesitant to reference specifics, because when we make updates and changes, then you have to update and change in multiple places. I don't know if it's well enough to say meets municipal code, and that's better. The language that was confusing before is we used the term regulations,
Right.
and we could never define what regulations. So I like the idea of being a little more specific. And if I was an applicant, I would love, and it would be helpful to be pointed to 114 and 115. And so I like giving that general direction, but I would never want to get more drilled down than that, because we're going to make changes to these. And then we not only make changes to them, but then we got to go back to the parent documents and make changes. So, but I do think that 114 is a really important
Thing to also reference.
Yeah. So
You're right.
Well, and I like Jeff's comment about putting their meets municipal code regulations, because that's what got us through last time, right?
yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying. Do we just
Say
state,
it.
is it enough to
Just
state
saying it.
municipal code, or do we go into the detail and we note 12D, 114 and 115?
So if we just say it,
Is it enough
do,
rather than defining?
What I heard from the attorney on that specific point was to do a review of the entire code. It makes it a bit cumbersome.
okay,
As far as on his end, it makes it cumbersome, and just almost every end to go through and say, okay, every single code in the whole code. But we could dial it down to just everything in 12D. 12D is our
There you go.
subdivision general provisions.
I like that. At
so
least,
that,
I mean, I'm comfortable with saying municipal code, but I'm pretty familiar that I would go to 12D.
Yeah, if we,
But I think it's helpful for the everyday citizen that if we give some general.
because I'm an everyday citizen and it is helpful to find that there,
and we could state something along the lines of must follow all applicable standards in 12D, because there are
12D.
some standards in 12D that are say for commercial subdivisions only. and Things like that, but applicable standards within 12D should cover it. The other 12C-1003, that area width, that one's obviously 12C, not 12D, but that's the primary zoning thing. So as long as we reference a 12C,
Carry it.
all of 12D, we should be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I like that. The next comment, if we're ready to go to the next, is just the next sentence, or the rest of this sentence. So the International Fire Code. So how this works is the state adopts the fire code. And so right now we're under the 2018 International Fire Code.
Mhm.
And this, as a city, we just have agreed somewhere to follow the state. Is that correct?
As far as I know, I don't know the details.
Yeah, so there's some language somewhere, but the state specifically stated to exclude the appendixes unless the city specifically adopts. So all this discussion, we're going to air some dirty laundry for a minute. All this discussion about the 750 feet is found in Appendix D.
But I'm going to clarify that a little bit. I don't think we formally adopted Appendix D. I
We
think that was found.
haven't. That's.
But we did copy and paste those same standards into our design standards technical manual that was adopted. So we didn't adopt,
But the 750 feet is not in there.
that table's in there for a dead end fire apparatus road. It's in our design standards.
I could not find it,
I'll have to send you an.
and
updated
Alan
copy.
couldn't find it for me. So if it's there, that's great.
Okay,
We
I'll
just-
verify.
needs
That's,
to- it needs to be submitted.
I spent hours trying to find that 750 feet.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I'm great if it's there, but I do think the city in general should consider adopting those. Because that
I'd say too.
appendix, so what this is, when I went through the three, like the road width and the unobstruction and the road surface, that's like what it states in the fire code. But the details that are really helpful in design and us reviewing, the details really come out in that appendix. But we couldn't necessarily levy the appendix because we haven't formally adopted it. And so my recommendation is the city as a whole, we really should. And I don't know the other appendices if you know, if we adopt all appendices or if we just stay with D, but I think that should be done.
Yeah, we may want to get some feedback from John Keller, Chief Keller, and Craig as well, and see what their thoughts on other appendices are. But I agree. I'll have to look into the process for adopting that and make sure we
Yeah.
do that correctly.
Because there's a place in our municipal code for where we would adopt things like that, and it's empty right now. And so there is a trail in there if you follow it to where it should be in there, and you go in there, and there's nothing that where we've taken exceptions or whatever. So anyway, yeah, whatever that process is, I strongly, because I don't think that it's not intended to be more restrictive, but it is intended to be really helpful. Yeah, it gives the clarification, like the turnarounds for fire apparatus, unless we really did adopt them in our design standard, all those turnaround standards and how to do a hammerhead dead end or all of that stuff is clarified in Appendix D. And it's not just in the regular 501 or 503
Right.
code.
Yep, agreed. We should get that adopted. And then we could reference a little more vague if we wanted to, depending on what the other appendixes are. We could just say Appendix D, that seemed to be where everything was, and directly reference it here. But I think
Well,
it would have to be paired with adoption.
yeah, the D is specific to fire access roads. And I don't recall what the other appendices are, but you know, we ought to look at them if we're going through the efforts of
Who comes up with the International Fire Code in the first place?
some international board.
So,
And so there, this is really common that states, cities, counties then adopt. So rather than everybody having to come up with their own.
They adopt it.
And so it's a, you know, and I don't know where that board is or how it exists, but it's, you know. But this is
But it's
really
there, it's
common
out there.
for communities, and it's the same with our building codes, that it's
Yeah.
an international building code and then we choose to adopt it and follow it.
point of information. We were talking about the fire code and the distance is 750 feet. John was talking that night when I was here on the first meeting that they plan on the city to put 400 feet between hydrants. And I'm wondering why not just extend our distance to 800 feet? That way we're hitting it at 400 feet
Well-
For the distance for,
between hydrants.
oh,
And then that a dead end or whatever, that one that we're talking about, just make it so that it works out.
what code is that in?
So that one was when we were discussing the ingress egress, and that was came up when we talked through the option of the 1,000 feet in the
Yeah.
case of a temporary
couldn't figure
turnaround. That one is in the hands of the city council. So basically, we recommended it forward. We recommended it without the 1,000, just hard line at 750. And we're kind of waiting legal feedback. And then council will take action on that. So I'll let council know that suggestion of 800. They may decide to stick with 750 as per the planning commission voted recommendation, or they could end up going with the 1,000 foot in the special circumstance on the master plan road option. All those are still on the table and not solidified. So
Okay. So let's
Do
go
all of
on
our
to-
firefighting machines have that 750?
They have 1,000, and it was
1,000
brought
feet
up in planning
above.
commission in the last meeting that I don't know if that is the most relevant number. And I can't remember who stated it, but it was a great point on the planning commission that the hydrants have to be spaced 400 feet apart,
Yeah.
irregardless of the length of the road. So there could be a hydrant 200 feet from the end of the 750. I mean, it doesn't really relate directly to what, like the length of hose doesn't relate directly to the length of road, because they don't put a hydrant right at the very end of the road and just hope the hose can stretch,
Yeah.
essentially. So it is a number to go off of, but it may not be the best number. 750 is listed in Appendix D, so
Yeah.
there's some grounds for that. 1,000, I mean, it's a nice round number as well. 800, I mean, we could put any number, but it's nice to have one that has some weight to it, you know?
And it sounds like we better have Appendix D somewhere in our,
Yes, we'll need to get that, and I'll have to see
Yeah.
if that's an ordinance. It sounds like it's an ordinance we have to pass if
Yeah.
it's in the
Right.
code. I'll have to dig into what that is, and if the planning commission, this is a
Well,
simple
because
enough
it,
thing.
and,
that-
and the reason why is because it doesn't just apply to this. It should
Right.
apply to all of our design standards and ordinances. So it really should be a bigger,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, not just lot
Not just this
legitimization.
not just
Subdivision.
this.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll look into that. And if the planning commission feels so inclined, I mean, we could have another meeting just to review what that would look like. We could just go straight to public hearing. Either way, it's fairly straightforward, but I'll look into the process and get back to you on it.
Okay.
Okay.
What next, Jeff? did you have?
so post-division, this pre-application, I think I like this. I was uncomfortable with the subdivision process. We have all these things in place to assure compliance, to allow for feedback, and where this is more of a, you come before you get forgiveness for the subdivision that was done improperly years and years ago, but you're on your way. But we've excluded kind of those checks and balances that we
Yeah.
have in our regular subdivision process. So I think this is fantastic to follow, kind of mirror our subdivision process.
And the language is taken, modified slightly, but taken
Yeah, it looks
pretty close to what our subdivision is. So it's
I think you
even
can
across
figure
the
it out.
board.
As far as number 2, from my feedback, the only concern that I have of requiring a survey is that I'm uncomfortable, and unless this is done at like a final review part, I would just be uncomfortable asking someone to spend the money for a survey if there's the potential that their application's got a lot of challenges and problems and that it could be denied. And so that's my only concern with levying some of those requirements, is that I would like to make sure that, you know, hey, this is going to meet everything else. Let's do a final check and get the survey. Does that make sense? Like, I
Yeah.
would have hated to have required, you know, Wilson and Strebel to go and get all that land surveyed
Right.
and then, you know, ultimately have a denied application. That's just mine. I think it should be done, and I like that it's part of the process. I would just hate to levy that prior to ever having a meeting before the commission.
It seems like though, the sooner the better to know if there are any issues pending or.
I guess maybe that's the
Whatever.
gamble that they can choose to take. If it were me in their case, I mean, those lots are huge.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's just my thoughts. I hate to levy expense on there and then at the end we turn around and deny it. But
Can we read it again?
Yes.
Spencer, can
Oh,
you move
sorry.
it
I was
over?
making a note. I
I
will
think
scroll
there's-
back over.
There.
This shall include a land survey.
This shall include a land survey, yeah.
That's the main one.
Any question, what does it cost to have a survey done? Any idea?
it really depends. I mean, you can spend, you know, as little as 800 or 900 to thousands. And it can be as simple as, you know, part of it was surveyed a short time ago and, you know, they may need a couple property corners is all. So it really kind of depends. But I mean, you can be into, you know, multiple thousands.
for just a building lot.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't-
Plug your mic in, don't forget to plug your mic in when you speak, just so the microphone is right at your
Is it right
But
there
it-
now?
There you go.
That's where it should be. Okay, I'll talk there.
They're just really sensitive and that's the only way they'll work and I can complain to people that they can't.
Yeah, a
But it-
residential lot, you can spend 700 to 1,000 to have it surveyed.
But it also
Okay.
might be something that would be beneficial for them in the long run.
Oh, there's no question. I just, I hate to, that's in our current process now. We don't levy the complex engineering and all of that stuff until a design. Whereas maybe we couldn't go through the preliminary and
Right.
say, yeah, we think it meets the general things. And then, I don't know, that's the only thing that I had, a bit of concern with is just, I hate to levy stuff until, because it's a little bit of an orchestrated back and forth as you go through that subdivision design process.
And yet my feeling is that if we're going to look at this, we really need to know where it's going to be. And that if it's in this reg right here, the builder or the lot owner or whomever knows that that's there before they ever start. So it's an upfront saying and not down the road and say, oh, by the way, you've got to have this survey.
Right. Yeah. And there's a trade-off. I think there are valid points. It's good to have it in front for the planning commission to review, but Jeff's right. If it's something that ends up being a non-starter for obvious reasons, one way that might be filtered out is that pre-application meeting. There are a lot more people that come in with applications than make it to planning commission.
Yeah.
They make it into my office. They tell me they want to put condos up above 1600 East, and they don't ever end up making it to planning commission because I kind of
Say it's not
let
done.
them know that it's a non-starter beforehand. So to some extent, we'll catch a few of those. But another way around that we could do is say, if approved, so do it more like a concept plan where it doesn't have to be drawn up by a professional, has to be accurate, but not as precise. If approved, a survey has to be done to actually record it. That way we can get final verification that, hey, this acre is actually an acre. This frontage width is actually this width, because there have been multiple times where 13 acres gets surveyed and comes back as 11.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that could be a good middle ground as well.
Yeah,
like that.
because I'm not trying to skirt it, because I
Right.
think it's just that on a concept plan, we aren't requiring people to go do soil tests and
Right.
water tests.
Exactly.
It's the concept that everyone's going, hey, is everybody feeling comfortable with this? And so rather than forcing the developer to incur all these costs, and then it comes in as a non-starter, we're saying, hey, let's do a preliminary run through, you guys. And do we feel like things are going to meet and work? And then we say, yeah, we're going to approve the concept. And then they go out and incur all the expensive tests. But then we again have that opportunity to say, yeah. So that's all I'm just having a hard time saying, go do all this stuff so that we can take our first initial view at it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I could have that worded so it goes to the
And maybe I don't
post-approval.
understand how many meetings they're gonna have with this. So this back up just a little bit.
Yes,
So this pre-application meeting, is that with just staff?
that's with staff.
Oh, and
Yep. Just
Okay.
staff, and it's a staff of the planning commission. That's the
so
exact
this is like
language.
sit in the
This-
office, couple members for planning commission are there.
Yeah, we could
Okay.
have, this as the staff of the planning commission. That's what our language in our
Your
Yeah,
staff.
our,
okay, that's fine.
subdivision is, but typically that's just been
Okay.
city staff.
So
That's
they're
the
not,
big
so
one
they're really only still coming to planning commission.
Planning
once.
commission
Okay.
wants and city
Yeah,
council wants.
I mean, if that's where it's gonna be, then I don't know how we get around not requiring a survey.
Yeah.
I
I
guess
think we
I
would-
had made the assumption that they were gonna come to planning commission twice, like we would have a regular subdivision.
No,
Okay,
I think it's and speaking from personal experience, I think it's a good thing to have in there.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it shouldn't be in there.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but I was under the impression that they were coming to planning commission twice.
No,
So
Yeah.
if we're not following that, then yeah, keep it in there.
Yeah, no, this would all be in one go. And the main reason for that is just trying to keep it more streamlined.
Yeah.
I think in most
Right.
cases, this will be somebody with one lot who bought it. I mean, the way our code's written, it was split off years ago. They bought it, had no idea they couldn't build on it. They come in, submit a building permit, and we say, hey, you can't build on that.
Yeah.
That's technically part of this piece. We don't want to make it too cumbersome. So one round through the meetings, but still enough that, yeah, it's a fine line.
okay.
Yeah, no, if they're only coming to planning commission once, then it should be.
Okay.
Spencer,
Yes.
this is probably a point Eric would bring up were he here tonight, and this is, and any other agreements or documents needed. What does that mean?
Yeah, I'll have to, that was again, copy and paste from the other subdivision code. So we can look at
It's-
removing that or clarifying that. Development agreement is one of them. Some examples of other.
Well, I read
agreements-
this as for
For
recording.
recording the
It's
proper
what the
lots.
For
county
recording.
requires for.
Right.
recording.
Yeah,
Exactly. So if they have any agreements they need, so say a utility agreement with a neighboring property, it's hard to be all encompassing. There are some times where, okay, you can get this approval. You need an agreement from the canal company that they're going to serve you with water. You need an agreement from your neighbor that they're going to let you put a sewer line across to connect over the road. It varies from subdivision to subdivision. So it's kind of tough to pin down from
Right.
there.
Would it be helpful just to put, for example, or as an example,
We could,
just to give some indication of what they're looking at? And then list some of those unique situations or circumstances that might apply.
yes, yep, we could clarify that. In this recording method, where they have a land survey, agreements, documentation, meets and bounds descriptions, this is what we require on our minor subdivision. So this is going a step short of requiring a full plat. That way, that's saving them the cost burden of having an
Yeah.
engineer draw up a plat that's going to show the boundaries of one, maybe two lots. It doesn't save every bit of money. An engineer still has to write up all these legal descriptions and meets and bounds. So it's not going to make it just the quickest, slickest thing ever. There's still going to be some time paying an engineer or a surveyor or a title company to do that, but it does help ease the process a little bit. And that's the same for what our minor subdivisions are, which is less than 10 lots.
I like B. Any other concerns, anybody?
No, let's go down to 3.
Was there any issues on B,
And this is
development
just-
No,
agreement?
I think it's
No,
great.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
And this is just what planning commission
Yeah.
does.
Which is good.
Yep.
It outlines.
And then it goes down to city council.
City council, yep.
Okay,
Change that. Didn't catch that one subdivision there. Okay, perfect.
okay.
That's great. I'll get this formatted in and with those recommendations. Is this something that you'd want to see again before we schedule a public hearing? Or do we want to get one scheduled? It wouldn't be for next meeting, it'd be the meeting after.
What do you think? I think this
I'm
looks good.
comfortable
I
with
think this
The edits that we've noted, if, as long as we can have them.
before our
before the
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah, yes.
Yep. Yeah, I can do that then. It won't be next meeting. It'll be the meeting after. I could even get it scheduled for the meeting after and still have this just for a quick discussion next meeting.
Oh, there you go.
If we end
Okay.
up having
Let's do
time.
that.
That would be good. That would be good.
Okay. That sounds good.
Can I make one
Yes.
comment? Right there above that for city council review. That first word and then the above sentence, it says that the special conditions that they feel
All right.
should be, can we change that to think? Rather than, I don't like feeling I need to do something. I like to think more than just feel. Does that make sense? Anybody, I don't know anybody else cares about semantics or not like that, but I think
I do.
Can you just say
Yeah,
special
no, I
conditions
love
that
it.
should be, what's the rest of the sentence? Do you even have
any
to say,
special conditions that they,
can you just say special conditions that should be added?
Yeah.
yeah, something
That they
like that.
determine?
I don't like feelings, feel good stuff.
Good. Thank you. Okay,
I can do that. Yep. Perfect. I'll plan on having this on the agenda next week, and I will have it noticed for the meeting after, before that meeting next week. That'll go out.
Was there any feedback from the city council on the ordinance itself or language? Any struggles? Emily, did you guys?
on the improper subdivision ordinance.
I didn't ever, we talked about this thing. Okay. 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 Yeah, because
Okay.
we spent
We talked about
weeks
this a lot.
talking about it, but it never became real till we were trying to use it. And I'm like,
And this is gonna make trying to use it a lot better, a lot better.
So I think all in all, it was a good exercise. Just fresh on our minds.
Right.
We felt the pain really quick.
Yep.
We're still feeling the pain. Okay, number 2, Spencer. Discussion about a potential modification of North Logan City Code Title 12 to modify the requirement for paper copies to be submitted for subdivision, design review, and other applicants to allow for plans to instead be submitted by a PDF.
Okay, so this ordinance is many pages, and I got into Roman numeral like 11 or something. Usually we're at like Roman numeral 3 on the sections here. But in essence, a lot of our code is outdated in that it requires full-size printed copies of things. And this is relatively recent that our process for review, both for Planning Commission, City Council, and for staff, is basically solely digital. And so there are some times when applicants do their due diligence, they read through the code, they do everything to the code exactly as stated, and we'll get 4 rolled up 24 by 36s or 3 and 13 copies 11 by 17. And they end up just sitting in my office because we just pull everything up on the computer. So I just want to get this changed so that the diligent applicants who are reading through the code and doing everything right to the every line and sentence don't end up printing things that they don't need to. It's as simple as that. It's not a critical change, but pretty straightforward. This applies to site plans, non-residential site plans, subdivisions, design reviews. Those were the typical, those were the things that had that change. Alan told me there's one submittal that requires a floppy disk, but I couldn't find it. If I do, we'll change that later.
Okay.
Do you know where that is?
Pardon me, what is a floppy disk?
Yeah.
I'm old enough to know what that is.
The sewer has
Nan,
camera.
Nan, could you help me
I
understand what
still
that
have it at
is?
my house.
Hey Jeff,
Oh, I saw those in a museum.
I have a whole cupboard of floppy disks that I don't know what to do with. All my school
You can bring
stuff
him
is
next
on it.
meeting, pass him around. I don't know if we have to discuss this. Anybody want to discuss this?
I think it's
I
great.
I
I
think
mean,
it's a good
like it.
idea.
most cities and counties have long gone to digital, so.
And it will help you keep your office cleaner, huh? There you
I
go.
doubt it, but hopefully it helps a little bit.
And he needs help with that.
For the record, yes. Uh-huh.
And this should not impose any undue hardship on any applicant.
I think
No,
it'll make it
no,
easier,
this
think it'd
this
be
will make
easier.
it easier.
way
Yeah,
easier.
it's what they're already doing.
And if they
Um,
don't take time to read the code, I mean, if they don't, and they end up doing all this, too bad for them.
Yeah. Yep. And most of the time people will ask, and I'll just tell them, hey, we don't actually use the printed. You can just send it as digital. So this is just the off case that they've read the code very thoroughly, and it happens every once in a while, and we just end up with a bunch of copies. So
Yeah. Okay.
this will just be helpful.
I call a question.
What? Go
If
ahead.
that's what, anyway, in Robert's Rules of Order, when you call a question, that means it's ready to vote.
We don't have to vote on
This
this.
one can't be
Okay.
voted on because it's Title
Okay.
12, so we need public hearing. But I
Okay,
can
I
get
agree
this
with it.
scheduled for the same 2 meetings from now,
Yeah,
same as the
there's-
other one.
Okay.
General consensus that we are positive in support of this. So
Yes.
Okay,
We don't ever have to vote on discussions, right?
All right,
right.
Yeah.
I'll remember that.
Okay,
Hopefully.
We'll
number,
remind you.
yeah, we'll tell you, we're not voting.
We're all figuring it out. so.
Number 3, discussion of the 2022 Planning Commission meeting schedule and training opportunities calendar.
Okay, so this one is, so we discussed very briefly last meeting. I had put a document in there. It was a resolution that was adopted by city council with their meeting scheduled. I put it in a calendar format that's not the best looking calendar you've ever seen, but it gets the job done.
I liked it.
Um,
I like
That
it.
makes it a little more legible than just the text. So essentially, blue city council, orange planning commission. This proposed schedule has us just following the city council in every meeting. That includes the March meetings being pushed back a week. And then April meeting being canceled, the last one, first meetings in October being canceled, and then the December meetings being consolidated. Hopefully we don't end up staggering like we did last year. That ended up being a lot. But this makes it just a little more graphic, so we can see that. Also have training on here. So the second or third week of March, there's an APA, American Planning Association, Utah sector conference. That'll be in Kanab. We do have funding for general training. If you want to come down to Kanab with me and go check out the wave, maybe you could get into the lottery for the wave.
We
down there.
want you to come back and train us.
Okay, I can come back and train you. There's also the Utah League of Cities and Towns Conference in April. That's in St. George. Again, we could look to send probably one planning commissioner to that. And then there's the one in the fall that's in Salt Lake. So I wanted to get that on everybody's radar. If you're interested in that, let me know. Again, we probably could send one or maybe two, depending on how many of those conferences people have
Jeff wants
interest
to
in.
go.
Sounded like Jeff really wants to go to, especially the one in Kanab. So I'll just get you signed up now. I think you'll be good. And the other thing I wanted to pin down on this, well, first off, any issues with any of these meetings or thoughts on trainings or anything like that? I mean, it's perfect far out
Looks
in
good.
advance, and we can, this doesn't set us to anything. We don't have to adopt a resolution. This is almost just for commission's information, staff as well. So Marie can plan things, like we can plan things if we know general idea.
And we still have requirements, right? Training requirements during the calendar year that we
Yes,
as planning commissioners must meet.
yes, and you can still do that training that Nan accomplished. I know Nan did that one. I'm not sure who else did.
I did not.
Can't remember anything.
Or these conferences, you'd get your hours
Mhm.
pretty much right away. So
Right.
I think it's
Get fired. if we
4
don't.
hours and one of them counts from the planning commission meetings. So
They're gonna dock my pay.
uh-huh. Yeah. Also on this, the meeting that falls in the APA, that's the only one where we wouldn't be, like, city council still holding that meeting there. The APA conference is here. I won't be around on that. We could cancel that planning commission. We could decide to move it. We can make that decision when we get closer based on what applications we have. So either of those will work.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to clarify and just get feedback on to take back to the city council is workshops. We have tried to hold 4 every year. We have never come close to meeting that. I think 2 is what we've actually done a year, about.
2.
So
2 years.
if we wanted to go for 3 a year, that would put us on like every 4 months, we have a workshop with the city council. The city council expressed, or Roger Anderson expressed, that it's, I think, city council's turn to come to planning commission, this next one. If we want to do it every 4 months, we could go and start in February. They also expressed that the second meeting a month is better because police commission's on the first Thursday of the month. So we could do February, June, and October. That would put us on a 4-month schedule. We could do March, July, November as well. The later we go for this first meeting, the more you get into budget stuff for city council. So that's something to weigh. I don't know if anybody had any thoughts on the second meeting of February or the second meeting of, I guess, March. We maybe that's when we run to the APA, but we could figure that out. So any thoughts on workshop timing?
I think February is better than March, especially if you're
Okay.
going to be gone. You
Okay.
have to be here.
So
What was there any consensus from city council on 2 versus 3 or?
we didn't talk in detail about it. I brought it up in staff business at the end, kind of as a passing note. Since then, I went in and kind of just looked at what dates and we shot for 4. We talked about maybe 3. We could do 2 as well. I can go back and clarify and see. 3 seemed like a happy medium. I don't know. Do you think we need 3 meetings? Do we stick with the 2? I think 4 is probably too many.
What are we needing to do? What are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah,
I don't
what's
want to just have a
purpose?
meeting to have a meeting.
Right.
If there's needs, I think the needs should dictate that personally. But that's just me.
Right.
Maybe we should see how this first one goes
we could.
See what kind of
and
treats
see
they
what we
bring.
think. Yeah.
Well, I remember,
I'm easily bribed.
yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just my thoughts.
I mean,
don't wanna
I'm with you,
plan
but it
just
would
to
be
have
nice.
it.
We have said we wanted these to be trained.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think we go from there, and because I don't want to come and sit to a meeting just to listen to stuff that I
Right.
don't need to know.
And this one would replace the second meeting in February.
Yeah. The one meeting we had with the city council, at least since I've been here, I thought was very helpful. And that's when we had remember the tables and we went over the bike paths and transportation and pedestrian and just that coordination with city council, kind of getting on the same page here where we were going. And my personal preference would be if we had 2 quality workshops a year, that would be sufficient.
Okay.
It's a good point.
Versus, 3 and 4, but
Yeah,
just
I don't.
my own personal opinion on that.
And the whole time I've been on the commission, I think we've had 2. And I don't think we'd ever pull off 4.
No,
So,
and I don't think they'd be beneficial at that point,
Yeah.
honestly. I think we could maybe shoot for 2 year. I'll pass that on to the city council and get back to you in the next meeting and just let you know what the feedback was, both on February 17th specifically and the 2 versus 3 meetings a year. As far as
Right.
agenda items, it will be broader scale planning related issues.
Okay.
So if you have specific goals you'd like to see from the city, say it's transportation, how we can solve a specific issue, active transportation, I am willing to put anything in that agenda and flesh out anything. If you have a specific thing you want me to dig into, what other cities have, I think having it be driven by what goals Planning Commission and City Council has will be the most effective rather than driven by just
Yeah,
yes.
I
what
agree.
I
Yeah.
think of. So
Yep.
make sure you let me know.
So my 2 cents on that, it would be really helpful for me as a commissioner to understand from the city council's view, challenges, things like that we could proactively, we're pretty reactive. But it would be really helpful. I mean, they see things maybe even a little broader than we do. And there may be some at the 30,000 foot level challenges that they're dealing with in the city that if we could proactively address or approach, that would be really helpful for me as a commissioner
Yeah.
Mhm.
to kind of get that sense and feel of challenges that they're having that what we could proactively address.
Yeah, no, and that would be great. Because then that gives us almost like an
Yeah.
action item list that we can start working on to help work through some of, so that would be
Yeah.
perfect.
And even, I mean, I'm gonna even go out and ask for my cake too and to eat it. If we could do that prior to the meeting, have some of that discussion, maybe amongst the planning commission, maybe the city council amongst themselves. But it would be great to have some of those things identified. I would like to have them identified and be able to come to the meeting with some preparation.
Didn't we? Oh, sorry. Jen.
Oh, that's all right. Anyway, that's just, I think that makes for really effective meetings. Coming in with some thought around it and some runway before to be able to come in with ideas.
And maybe this was before anybody else was on. Didn't we sit down once and come up with action items that we were concerned about as a planning commission that we wanted to talk about, learn about? Don't we have that somewhere?
Yeah, so we had that as goals. I can take those goals. We did that last year, and I think the year before, we talked through those in the workshop as well. I think it may be beneficial. So say we have a meeting on February 17th. If I throw an agenda item in Planning Commission and an agenda item in City Council at the end of the agenda, so that if it's overloaded, you can drop it if we need to, but basically goes over a draft workshop agenda. And then we can add
Yep.
to and manipulate that as we will, but that way everybody's got 2 weeks, not with all the material in front of them likely, but with a draft
But to-
agenda of
to
the
think
general
about it.
topics
Yeah.
to
I
think
like it.
Come
about.
up.
And we can add things or subtract things if it feels like that's not what we're looking for. That may be,
That's good.
gives you the leeway that Jeff was wanting and gives the planning commission time to think through goals
Right.
as a planning commission. City council can think through goals as a city council and bring those all to the table together. Tackle a few issues and really try to make some progress, or at least have a
I
clear
think
direction
that's-
after.
I think that would be a great idea,
Okay.
helpful to us.
One
That'd be
one
good.
step further are there things that the staff could use that we could proactively? I mean, the topics, the first topic tonight, I mean, we all knew that was a big thing, but are there other things like that we could proactively, I don't know. So
Yeah.
I'd inquire feedback from staff too, if
Okay.
there's things that are giving you angst.
Right.
Yeah.
Troublesome.
I
Mhm.
can
Because
float
we don't
that.
always see that. I
Right.
don't know,
Yeah.
what you deal
Do-
with every day. And
Right.
I know that actions that we have can make your job easier or harder.
I can float that in a staff meeting, and also I can just sit down. Jordan, Allen, and
Yeah.
I are handling a lot of the land use things and see if there's anything we can do to, anything we would recommend on there as an agenda item. And
Yeah.
just, we'll try to keep that agenda to things that we can get some progress on, get a clear direction on. So, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'll float that February 17th date, check on the frequency, and maybe 2 times a year is the sweet spot, and we'll go from there. So
Great.
I don't have anything else on the calendar. So
That's it. Any other thing, any commission need to talk about, address, questions, concerns? Nope. So do we have a motion to dismiss?
one
Oh,
quick
wait.
staff business for me, sorry.
we
Just a
missed- we
heads
skipped it.
up on the next meeting, just so you're aware, we have 2 public hearings next meeting. That's been noticed. We're trying to increase our communication. So the ordinance will be available on the public notice website. There's a rezone as well. That plan will be available on the public notice website. They're already in your drive folder for you to review, the application and plan. So take a look at those. I don't have the staff report written up yet. I'll get to that as soon as
Where's the
as soon as I
rezone?
can. The rezone is off of 600 East and 2200 North. It's RE1 parcel. It's just east of the canal. They're right by the Cove Apartments. The proposal is to rezone that to MR8.
Monty,
People can-
MR8 is what?
Mixed residential,
residential.
8 units per acre. So anyway, talk to me about that if you
We
have
weren't
any
gonna do that,
questions.
or do this.
And
We love
we can
rezones.
discuss it, but we'll try to post that on Facebook and Instagram. We'll get
Okay.
notice out to the neighbors. But if you have any questions about it, people that see the public notice at the library or what have you, you can direct them to the city website, the public notice website, potentially social media. I don't think it's posted there yet. I'll get with Marie on that. And we'll get it up there, or send them to me and we'll have it out there. So we're trying to make a push on communication, and
I
I'm
like it.
trying to get things
Good.
in your box a little earlier. So we'll keep working on that.
I like it.
Okay,
What was the other public hearing?
The water
You lost me at
conservation,
zoning.
water conservation ordinance.
Oh,
And that's the one we had discussed
yeah,
before.
okay, so that
We
one.
knew we couldn't have it for this meeting, but for next. So that one will be there too. I have the rezone first so that applicants can come and do their thing, and
The
then.
crowd
do the
will
ordinance
dismiss.
after.
oh, great. I'm gonna use this. Anything else? Are we done?
I move we adjourn.
After this.
Seconded.
Okay, Dwight made a motion to adjourn and Heron seconded it. Any, all in favor?